In one of his books, David McCullough wrote about Teddy Roosevelt when he was a little boy. And he said that Teddy, when he was little bitty, was afraid of going to church. He was afraid of the church house. And his mother talked to him about it, asked him, well, why are you afraid of going to church? He wouldn't go without somebody with him. And little Teddy Roosevelt said, well, the preacher preached on the zeal. And, well, that didn't help his mother just a whole lot. So at home, she pulled out her Bible concordance and read through the different passages that use the word zeal. And she came to the one that said, the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up. And he said, that's it. That one. So he had formulated in his mind the idea that the church house would eat him up, and he was afraid to go. I didn't know that Teddy Roosevelt was ever afraid of anything. But sure enough, when he was little, he had formed that idea. And I'm told that he suffered with asthma, and when he had asthma attacks, it was very often on Saturday night and Sunday morning when they hit him. Okay. In John chapter 2, as we noted already in the reading, Jesus was in the temple. It was the Passover. Crowds of people were in Jerusalem. He walked into the temple, and what did he see? He saw people doing business. Money changers, the Bible calls them. And I guess if you came from a distance and you needed an animal for sacrifice, and you didn't have one, you could buy one. And if you needed certain coins to pay the temple tax, well, you could do that too. And so people seeing a business opportunity set up business in the temple. Lots of coming and going, lots of hustle and bustle, lots of business going on, and Jesus walks in. And he sees the tables and the business and all of that. And as we tend to think uncharacteristic of Jesus, he made a whip and he drove those people out of there. And he pushed those tables over. And the disciples, not participating apparently, Jesus did all this. But the disciples standing back and watching were reminded of Psalm 69:9, where David said, the zeal of your house has eaten me up. And they thought about that when they watched Jesus throwing these money changers out of the temple. We call that the cleansing of the temple. And what they saw in Jesus was zeal. Well, little Teddy Roosevelt was afraid of the zeal. But people are afraid of zeal too today. We don't like it sometimes, and sometimes we do. Jesus displayed it in the cleansing of the temple, and these disciples thought about that. The zeal of your house has eaten me up. Zeal is a very interesting word. It's excitement of mind. If you're excited in mind about something, if you're very serious about it, if it means a lot to you, And you're excited in mind. You're not a doormat when it comes to this sort of thing. It excites you. Warmth of heart, of heart. Fervor. I like the word fervor also. There has to be, some excitement. There's some fervor. There's warmth. You're serious. And you show it. You don't hide it. It's very obvious to people. So when the disciples watch Jesus doing this, and it appears as though he's mad, angry. We could use the word angry. I don't suspect that Jesus was smiling or laughing or having a good time when he was doing this. Not at all. He's not happy. But he's zealous, okay? So, zeal. So there's our lesson. The zeal of your house has consumed me, eaten me up, consumed me. Does zeal consume us? Well, I hope so. It needs to, especially if it's good. Zeal in and of itself is not necessarily good. There's a bad zeal, there's a good zeal. People are zealous for bad things, for evil, all the time. That's what drives people. Their zeal for that kind of thing. And then on the other hand, the church of our Lord, purchased by the blood of Jesus, is filled with people who are zealous of right and good things. Truth, salvation of souls, everything that's right. So there's a zeal that's right and a zeal that's not right. I think about, you think about a bad zeal. There's all kinds of examples of it. You see it every day. But if we go back to the New Testament, Paul, in writing about himself in Philippians 3 and verse 6, he reflected back on his own life and what he was before he became a Christian. And he remembered that with zeal he persecuted the church. That's not the kind of thing you're half-hearted in doing. So he was zealous in doing that. So there's an example of bad zeal, okay? Wrong kind of zeal. Thankfully he changed. But then zeal, it can be good and it needs to be good. And in Colossians 4 and verse 3, Paul mentioned a fellow by the name of Epaphras. And he said, Epaphras is very zealous for you. Church at Colossae. You. But he mentioned others too. He mentioned other places, towns that you would recognize, names you would recognize, and one of those happened to be Laodicea. Laodicea? What do you know about Laodicea? Well, all I know is in Revelation, the 3rd chapter, among the other congregations mentioned in chapters 2 and 3, there's Laodicea, the last of the group, and they're known for their laziness. Lukewarmness, if you will. Doesn't sound like a congregation that's exactly on fire with zeal, but Epaphras loved them with a great zeal. Okay, so there's good and there's bad zeal. So zealousness is a feeling, something that drives you, and something that we need. Now, I think of a different word that Paul employed to get this point across to the church at Rome in Romans 12. And I like to think of Romans chapter 12 as the second love chapter of the Bible. We think of 1 Corinthians 13 as the love chapter. Romans 12 is too, because all through it, Paul is dealing with the brotherly love and brotherly love. And then In verse 11, here's a little thought, touching on what I want to deal with this morning. Of the members of the body, everybody's different, and we bring talents, abilities, and skills into the mix. And being kindly affection one to another, verse 10, that's with brotherly love, in honor giving preference to one another, not lagging in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Fervent. Some translations may say zealous, or may use the word zeal. So the same idea, different word, fervent. All right, so we need that. Every congregation needs it. We need people who are consumed with it, just like Jesus was in John 2. The zeal of your house has consumed me. And the disciples remembered that, saw it in Jesus. We need people who are consumed with zeal. We can be touched by zeal. We can be bothered by it sometimes. Or we can be consumed with it. Which would you prefer? Let the zeal of your house, God's house, consume you. Now, one way that might help us to appreciate this is to see it in an example. Examples help me a lot. I like to use them. I like to teach from them, preach from them, so forth. In Matthew 20, there's an example given of zealousness, zeal. Matthew 20 through 28. So I'm going to take you out of John 2 for the moment, away from John 2. Let's go back to Matthew 20. Okay, shifting gears here. And let's look at some folks who, who were very zealous. Okay. So in Matthew 20, beginning in verse 20, the mother of Zebedee's children, and that was James and John were her sons. She came with her sons, kneeling down, asking something of Jesus, and he asked her, okay, well, what do you want? I want my two sons to sit with you, one on your right hand, the other on your left in your kingdom. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that she didn't do that out of laziness. No mother would do that out of laziness. Only zeal would prompt her to do that. And I have an idea. James and John sitting over there. Oh, yeah, Mom, good. Yeah. Let's go. So I can see zeal manifesting itself here in an example in Matthew 20 through 28. But I want us to look at it, pardon me, in a couple of ways here. First of all, zeal can be adversely consuming. Now, if there is such a thing as a consuming zeal, if it overtakes you as a driving force, it can be adverse. In this sense it was, or in this passage it was. James and John and their mom. And here's an adverse consuming of zeal to put these boys in places of honor, power, position. Any mother would want that. So I'm just suggesting zeal is the driving motivation. All right, now, that's an adverse motivation, and Jesus knew it. And Jesus didn't chastise them for it. He did not. He didn't say, who do you think you are? asking a thing like that. No. Jesus said, you've got zeal, that's good. We need that, but we need to channel that zeal in proper places. All right. So in order to do that, first he had to allow them to see that, zeal can consume you in wrong ways for the wrong things. And here's how he did it. Zeal can be prideful. Prideful. I want my boys to sit on your right hand and on your left in your kingdom. Well, okay. Sounds like a little misplaced attitude there, a little pride going on, and not necessarily a good thing. And if you'll skip down here while we are in Matthew 20, 25 and 26, Jesus said, people are that way. People are driven by a zeal in various walks of life that make the world go round, but not necessarily a good thing. And in verses 25 and 26, he touches on that. Well, the rulers of the Gentiles, they lord it over them, and those who are great exercise authority over them. And yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to be great among you, let him be your servant. So greatness, everybody wants that. Everybody wants to be great. And this mother wanted that for her sons. Can't blame her on one side, but then you can on another. Pride takes a prideful path, you see. Greatness. Okay. And then in verse 28, the Son of Man did not, people want to be served too. I should point out in verse 28, people want to be served. People want to be great and they want to be served. All right. People love that. And Jesus said, the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but he came to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. Okay. So pride, a prideful path. Zeal can do that to you. And sometimes zeal can also take you into realms unknown. And the Lord pointed that out to James and John because they didn't really want what they thought they wanted. And in verses 22 and 23, the Lord said, you really don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink of the cup that I'm about to drink, be baptized with the baptism that I'm about to be baptized with? Drinking a cup, being baptized. A cup of suffering, an immersion of suffering. Jesus is alluding to what's coming. He knows what's coming. And they said, yes. And Jesus said, and here's the realms unknown. Yeah, you will, all right. You'll drink of the cup and you'll be baptized of the baptism that I'm baptized with. They don't understand that at this point, but they will later. But the thing that you're asking is not mine to give. All right. So, zeal, I can see that here in an example. I can see that it can be adversely consuming, can take over a person's heart. It can take you into realms you don't understand. And then you find out you're up to your head in trouble. And you wish you'd had better insights earlier on. All right, so there's an example of how it can be adverse. Now, what Jesus does with that zeal is redirect it. He doesn't condemn them for their zeal. He says, okay, let's take that zeal and see if we can put it into a different place. All right, let's do that. Let's do that now. Okay. Zeal. What can you do with it? Well, you can use it to serve. And you say, well, yeah, it's kind of simple, isn't it? Yeah. Zeal, not just a little spark of it here and there, but a consuming zeal. There's a lot you can do with that. That's good and is needed, and every congregation needs it. All right. Well, let's see what we can take out of this. There needs to be a zealous love. Zealous love, yeah. 1 Peter 4 and verse 8, check it. You need a love that is driven by zeal. That's not half-hearted or cold, but it needs to be warm. And brotherly love that is driven. You need prayer. Prayer needs to be, James used in 5:16, he used the word, the effectual, fervent prayer. Fervent, zealous prayer. Works much. All right? James 5:16. Prayer needs to be zealous. All right. Individually, collectively. Support the gospel. Support it because you want it. Because we must have it. Because it needs to be supported and must be in order to be successful. And I think of Acts 18:25 in this connection. Apollos, instructed in the way of the Lord, being fervent in spirit. That's zeal. Same thing, different word. He spoke and taught diligently, accurately, the things of the Lord, though he only knew the baptism of John. He needed some help along that line. But he was zealous everywhere else, you see. So, zealous in support of the gospel. And then we need a zealous service. And we touched on that already in Romans 12 and 11. Okay? Zeal. People who are zealous care about you. People who are zealous will check on you. People who are zealous will want to help you. They will encourage you. They will build you up. They'll chastise you when you need it. And they'll strengthen you every step of the way. People who are zealous. People who are not will not make a dent in your life one way or the other. They're there. And they may be friends. But zealous people are the ones who will check on you. Zealous people are the ones when every Lord's Day before you preach will say, bring it! Without fail. And zealous people will keep you strong and keep the church strong. And when they tell you of things that are going on and their eyes begin to tear up, you know they mean it. And you know they're zealous. It's obvious. We need zeal. We need people who are consumed with it, who are eaten up by it, who are zealous for the Lord's world because the world needs the gospel, who are zealous for the Lord's house because the church needs to be built up and increased, and who are zealous for the Lord's will because people need to know it. And they need to obey it. And we need a zeal that is not there to remind us of all the things that we're not doing right. We don't need that. Well, maybe sometimes we do. We need a zeal that was like Saul of Tarsus. When the time came in Acts chapter 9 for Saul to encounter Jesus, and Saul in Acts 9:6 said, Lord, what would you have me to do? And Jesus said, go into the city and it'll be told you what you'll need to do. And he did. And Ananias came to him. And in Acts 22:16, he gives us a little side view of this, he said, Ananias said to him, now, Saul, what are you waiting for? Get up from there, be baptized, wash away your sins, calling on the name of the Lord. And he did. It took zeal for Saul to do that. He took the zeal that he used in persecuting the church to simply ask a question. What do you want me to do? And he did it. And that zeal, and he carried that zeal out, and that's why we're here today, because of that. And that's what will keep Mabelville going, keep Mabelville strong, is zeal. Not a half-hearted, lackadaisical name only, but a zeal for your house that consumes you. Got to have it. And I hope that this morning you will take the zeal that Saul had. He said, Lord, what would you have me to do? And ask the same question and do the same thing as we stand and sing to encourage you.